Hi, welcome. My name is Alex, and today I'm going to be doing a what's in my bag. This is my first video, so sorry if I'm a little nervous. Um, I've always wanted to do one of these what's in my bag videos because a lot of the artists that I've come to know and love make a lot of videos like these, and I always think they're really interesting and they give me inspiration and they encourage me to be a little more fun with the supplies I'm using, so I hope that does that for you as well. So I'm gonna start off with my Delphonics carrying bag. I've had one of these before in the past and it was yellow, and I had it for about 5 years until the stitching kind of came loose. I did not treat it very well. And then probably about a year ago, I got this one. This is the size A5, I believe. I love this bag so much. It feels like it carries everything and there's still room for all of my pens. I also love how they have like little loops on the side kind of for like keychains, or I used to put also like a shoulder strap for a bag and I used to wear it as like a purse kind of. But now I just keep it as like a pencil case that stays home, or it'll come with me wherever I'm going. So first, I do want to talk about all the pins I have on here because I love enamel pins. I will put in the description where all these pins are. Some of these are from places I've been, so I don't really have anything for that. But yeah, I just love like looking at something visually, and it has like a bunch of things I love on it. So I also like to keep this binder clip always on like one of my pouches or inside of one because I use these a lot for paper. And I have also like the larger ones for keeping like notebooks open. Yeah. And then the things I use the most stay in these little pen pockets. I could probably put some more things in there, but I've been using this a lot lately and sometimes I just throw things inside. This is my favorite pen. It's the Kaweco Student Series and it's their rollerball pen. I have had this since college. I think that was back in 2022. This is such a beautiful pen. It's my favorite pen. It writes so smooth. I believe the point size is a 0.7, but it's just so beautiful, and I love the cream color of the body. And this cap is also, it's just very well made, and you can tell by holding it. I also love gold, even though I'm wearing silver. I love gold, and yeah, this is just such a beautiful pen and all the details that are on it. And I use this a lot for either writing from journaling, or I'll use it for sketching with pen, or mostly, or those are really the only two options. That's what I use it for. Yeah, and so it has like a screw-on cap, and then when you are using it, I usually just kind of stick it in the top like that. So yeah, this is my favorite pen. And I usually have 0.7 pens and pencils because I like chunkier lines and I write kind of heavy, which this pen is great for because it has its own weight to it, so I don't have to apply as much pressure as I would with a lighter pen. This is my favorite. And then in the next little pocket, I have this is the this is the Pentel twist erase. I couldn't remember where this is from. I've used this a lot too. I love this. Also, I love how like the eraser isn't too big, but it's also not too small either. I've gone through a lot of mechanical pencils in the past where when you like, the erasers on them will either be extremely tiny and it's hard to find refills, or it'll be like just a weird, or there won't be enough of it either sometimes too. Like it'll be a good size, but it'll stop like right here. So this is great, and I haven't had any issues finding refills for these. Clearly I've kind of gone through this one. But yeah, I love this like pencil. I have this out just to see like, oh, there's no lead in that. There's totally no lead coming out of that. Yeah, but I love this mechanical pencil and I use it the most, so I keep it in my little front pocket. Also, if this looks strange to you, it's because it was like a button pin, but I bedazzled it and it's no longer on my bag. Didn't know that was loose. So now we open the bag, And this is quite its own like little treasure trove. And even I have a hard time finding things that I actually like using in here. So yeah, a lot of the time I find myself like opening this and I'll only use what I can see on the top and I don't actually like dig through. So I kind of need a better system for that. But for now, I'm gonna empty this out and I'm gonna show you everything I keep in here and what's like in my daily rotation of art and sketching supplies. Okay, so welcome back. I am sorting everything into different categories. So first we're gonna start with pencils. I don't use pencil that often actually, but I do enjoy having them in case I feel like I want to do maybe like a rough draft or just a really quick sketch, or I'm not really confident about what I'm gonna go in and start drawing. So as you can see, I have, I believe, 4 Blackwing pencils, and I love Blackwing pencils. My only thing is that I wish, it's just that the eraser is so small and it goes out quite quickly for me, and the shape is kind of odd. I know this is a bonus for a lot of people, but I'm just not a very huge fan of the eraser system in these. But I do love the lead in these, and these are great especially if you're taking pictures of your art when you're done, because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the black one, if you sketch with this and take a picture, you won't get that sheen or that shine you often get from using any kind of graphite or lead. And I have these little metal pencil caps just to keep them sharp while they're in my bag. I got these from a local art store. I'm sure you can find them at honestly any art store. These were like 36 cents, I think, or 50 cents. But these are great. And I know that Blackwing has their own kind of little protectors, but these were really great for the price. And then I also have 2 of these kind of limited edition ones. I don't remember. This one I think was a Beatles one. I added the little gold print just for fun. And then this one, I don't remember what series this is from, but I also got this from one of my local art stores. So I love the Blackwing pencils and how thick the lead can be. And then here I have, this is a Sunstar lit pencil. This one has actually 2 like different holders inside of it, which is really interesting. It has a 0.3 and a 0.5, and I use the 0.3 for regular lead, and then I use the 0.5 for blue lead. It's just nice to have if I don't want to carry like 2 different like pencils for that, so like it'll just switch out. I forget sometimes which one's which, but I don't have any 0.3 lead at the moment, but I do love using this for my blue lead and also with blue, so it helps me remember what's in there. And then from what was in like the front of the pouch, I have another one of these Pentel Twist Erase, and it's a 0.7 again. This one has more of an eraser, I think. Yeah, it does. I'll probably switch that out at some point. But I really love the color of this one, which is mostly why I got it. But I also like to have like 2 separate ones in case this one ever gets moved into like a different pouch that I'm bringing somewhere else, because those are really my only 2. So I love these. I have, yeah, if I could get more colors, I would. And then also for pencils, I hold on to like multiple different types of sharpeners in my case. I usually have a metal sharpener, but I can't find that one right now. I do prefer the metal ones though. I have this Faber-Castell pencil sharpener, and this one's convenient because it has like a holder for the shavings that are on the inside, and it has, you know, the 2 different holes. But only thing I would say I don't like about this one is just that whenever I'm sharpening a pencil, I lose a lot of it, and the lead will break off whenever I'm sharpening. This isn't a very, I wouldn't call this like, you probably shouldn't use this for like your nicer pencils or if you want your color pencils to last very long. But this is really good for just like on the go. You just need to quickly sharpen something and you're not really picky about how the point is gonna look or if it's gonna chop up your pencil. So I'll use this for maybe like one of my Blackwings if it's one I travel with a lot, or I'll use it for like a colored pencil that I don't really care about, but it's for shading or something. And then I have this Lyra sharpener, and this one has a pretty big hole on it. But I keep this one in the pouch because I have a set of crayons, and I will pull this one out if I ever need to sharpen those. So, and then I have 2 erasers that I keep in there. I thought this was just like adorable, so this stays in my bag. I also got this at the art store, And then I also have this one, and I just really thought it was cute, and the blue like marbling effect kind of on it. And it also erases really well. I would prefer this, how this erases, over that one. If I can find this, I'll link it in the description. But yeah, that is it for the pencil section. Okay, now we're gonna move on to pens. I think I have recorded like this section of the video like 10 times already because I have so much to say about all of these and it feels like it's not enough time. So I'm gonna real quick go through these because I do have a lot of pens in my bag. These are by Le Pen, and I believe they say on the side Marva Uchida, and I'm not sure if that's another part of the brand or just this series of pen they have. But these are awesome. You shouldn't be in there. But these are awesome. The color is so vibrant. I'll use these for journaling or sometimes sketching, but not frequently. They're just, the colors they come in are so pretty. This like reminds me of candy. I really enjoy the felt tip ones, like those. It's really small, which I like because if you want to add, say, like blush to a drawing, or even if you're journaling and want to just like shade or fill something in, these are great. And I've never had issues with these like bleeding through paper unless you like do a ton of layers. And then they also have it in this like really fine point, which these are really nice too for any kind of like side notes, annotations, or journaling, which is what I mainly use those for. But I do use the felt tip nibs like occasionally for any kind of sketching. And then this is a Pentel sign pen. I love the color red, so if I see any kind of like pen that's red, I will consider buying it just because I love the color. This is another kind of like rubber tip, and I love this pen. This is so nice. Actually, yeah, I love that color. It's not like too dark, but it's also not too bright either. This is such a nice pen, and it flows really smoothly, and it's good for just like, I find this really good for just like silly sketching. I wouldn't really use this for anything that I want to make like, I don't know, like a really nice big polished painting or drawing of, but this is just such a fun little pen to have in your case, in case you want to do something fun. And next I have, these are also Le Pen. I am addicted to these actually. I've bought like, God, I would say I've bought probably maybe even like 15 of these in my lifetime so far. And I'm onto these because I really go through the ink. These are their brush pens though, and I love these so much. The color on these, I've used a lot of different types of brush pens, but I've never found one that has such a rich and lasting black like these do. Immediately once it hits the paper, I mean, these might be kind of running out. No, that's pretty good. Yeah, these are just like, I love these so much. I probably said that like 100 times about everything in my bag. But these are awesome. And I love also how long the nib is on these too. A lot of the times on brush pens, like the nib will be a little shorter, or maybe it'll be long like this, but it'll be a lot thinner and it'll bend a lot more. But I like how sturdy this one is and how it keeps its shape, even though I kind of abuse it. So those are, yeah, those are a staple. And then of course I do have microns. I think everyone knows what microns are. And if you don't, you should. They're awesome. I would highly recommend them for any kind of line art. They are waterproof and archival. And I have 2 brush pens, and then I have a 2 and a 3. The ones I use most frequently are probably the brush pens. If I were to test these right now, I think it would be really dry. But let's see. Let's put it below the Le Pen one. No, that's still good. Yeah. But I do find I get thinner strokes with these, like I said before with the Le Pen, because it is thinner and it is still kind of long, but it doesn't lay as thick, I think, as the Le Pen does. But I do still love using these. These are still great. And then anything with like a finer point tip I use for line art, or if I'm sketching with these and I want to put watercolor over them, that's what these are great for. And next we have the Power Tank. I think this is Uniball, I believe. It's a 0.7. Yeah, it is Uniball. It's a 0.7, and I think this is my 3rd one of these I've gotten. I used these a lot in college when I was taking notes because it's so smooth, and you wouldn't even think it's a 0.7 in my opinion because the way it writes is kind of thin, but it's very smooth. I would imagine a 0.7 to be much thicker than this, at least from other pens I've used, but it's just the way it writes is just so it's smooth, and then the line is also, it still feels thick without me feeling like it's a really big, bold, in-your-face 0.7 line. And then this is also Pentel. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, or I guess the Stilo pen, like the specifications of this one. But this is another where it has this like really unique nib that I have never seen before. But I mean, maybe this is what's in like the other felt or rubber tip nibs. And I'm just like seeing the truth. But these are really nice too. This is the second one I've got because the ink on these kind of runs out a little fast. And if you're not careful, these will dry out or the nib can get a little messed up. Or that's my own misuse perchance, but these are really cool too. I love how dark this one is. And I also love too, you might not like this, but this is a personal preference, the scratchiness that you hear whenever you're writing with this. Like you can feel and hear the texture of like the paper whenever you're drawing or writing something. Wrong side. Whenever you're like drawing something, I love that you can hear kind of the little scratch happening. Now this pen is like fairly new, I would say, to my pencil case, but I tried this out in the store because my local art store lets you try out pens before you actually buy them, and I think this is Kokio. I love like their paper, any of their stationery supplies, and they have these in multiple different colors. I believe I have another one of these, but in the color green. But these also write really nice, and I like using these in like a journal or planner as well. These are really nice for writing, and they dry very quickly too. So if you're doing it in a planner or maybe you're on the go, you can highlight over it fairly quickly. I do have a Muji gel pen. I think this is a 0.5. I think most of them usually are, or they also have like a 0.38. But this one I was gifted, and personally, I wouldn't buy this again. I know like tons of people are fans of the Muji pen, but personally for me, it doesn't dry fast enough, I don't think. And also every time I have attempted at least to highlight over it, it smears like all throughout the highlighter, and then I have to kind of run the highlighter over a blank sheet of paper to get the ink to come off. So these are okay. I think if you're mainly a writer and you're not planning to like put any kind of like color or highlighter over this, these are great still. They do write quite nice, but personally for me, I just keep it in my bag because I don't want to throw away a perfectly good gel pen, but those are still, they're okay. And then of course I do have the Uniball Signo white gel pen, and this really is just for like any small little white details you want in a drawing, maybe like the pupil or not the pupil, I don't know, highlights somewhere if you want. These are really fun though, and on black paper too, these are really pretty. And that is it for the pen segment. So moving on to markers. This is just maybe even like a tiny little show into like my marker collection as a whole, but clearly I love the Faber-Castell Pitt pens. These, I will stay loyal to these because I think these are just fantastic. And of course, as a trend that you might see in this video is that I love felt tip nibs. I love how bendy they are. I love the color that comes out on them. And it's something that I feel like I can't get with any kind of like really fine point on a pen. And I know they have these and also like a bigger kind of like bullet tip, but I haven't tried those yet. But these are wonderful. And also for layering color as well, I haven't had any issues with that. And it comes out really nice. These will always stay in my pouch or on the go. These have always been, I've never seen these go down in quality or have any issues. This is like one of my favorite things that Faber-Castell makes. So yeah. Now, for another type of marker that I keep in my bag is the Tombow markers. Specifically, I couldn't tell you specifically. It's Tombow though, Tombow. These are very popular. I learned about these from a friend who loves journaling and does a lot of like sketching in her journals, or she'll do like cute shading. And it's always with these, and they're so light. It's a thick felt tip, like, and you would expect this to lay on quite heavy because it's loaded with a lot of ink in there, but these are so light. I love these in my sketchbook especially, because I don't like it when the color bleeds through the paper, and the paper I tend to use is a little thin, but these are just so soft and light. And I also enjoy having the option of doing either that big felt tip or also on the other side, having the smaller kind of bullet point. And I do have a little bit more of like a darker and vibrant colors. I also enjoy using this red too. Let's see. Yeah. And then I never really have any issue with seeing it on the other side. So these are awesome. These are so light and smooth. These can go in both a sketchbook and a journal. I don't feel like I need to choose one or the other when it comes to these pens. Next up is my Molotow paint pens. So the one that I think a lot of people use or know of, and I certainly have used a ton of, is the Posca markers, because those are very popular and it's a very accessible and cheap and easy paint pen to use. The only cons I would say to that are that they're not refillable, so you got to throw them away and then buy a whole new one when you're done with them. But then I was recommended Molotows, which you can even like empty one of these out and mix your own color to go in there and use it as a pen. And just like a Posca, you shake it before you use it. And I only have 3 of these. I'm sorry, 4, not 3. And my favorite one to use is this red. This was an empty one actually, and then you can buy these like big bottles of like the paint refills and just put it in there. And yeah, this one's kind of a mess, but oh, that's what the nib looks like. And also they come in different nib sizes too, so you can choose any size, or yeah, they have like really chunky ones too if you're into that. But sometimes you do have to really shake these though to kind of get the paint mixed up, especially if you haven't used one maybe in a while. But these come out great, and the nibs are nice, and I love that they're refillable. I hate having to throw away like a pen and then buy a whole new one, because I'm like, why can't I just like, I don't know, put a syringe in there and refill it or something? But yeah, I love these. And finally, now we're gonna move on to, oh my God, this like huge collection I have of Copics. I only have this one Copic because these bleed through the sketchbooks that I enjoy using, which is really unfortunate. I can't see myself buying a whole sketchbook purely just so I can draw with Copics in them. Personally, I find that these do not mesh very well with my art style and the type of paper I like using. So I only have one, and they're also quite expensive. I would find them as not very accessible or beginner art supplies. I believe it can be around like $7 to $8 just for one marker. Whereas the other markers I showed you can be around $2 to $3. So these are good, they're good quality. The last time I used this was about like a year ago actually, and I kind of had to like make peace with the fact that it was gonna bleed through onto the next page, but that's okay. This one, have I beaten this one up? This one's a little dirty, but I haven't used this in forever, but I do hold on to it because I don't want to throw away a perfectly good Copic. So yeah, also the smell is very strong. If you're sensitive to like any kind of alcohol smells and just anything strong coming from your pen, these will kind of have you nose blind, but that's okay. And then there's the other kind of chisel tip on there. I used to be in love with these. I used to think that this was like the peak of like art and being an artist, and like if you had a whole collection of these, it means that you've like succeeded in life. But I don't know, after exploring, you know, different types of markers and what meshes with my style personally, I have found that these don't really hold up to that. So, but it's still good quality, especially if you have the correct paper to be using it on. And don't use it on like watercolor paper or anything super thick, because it will absorb all of your ink. That's cheating. Okay. Anyway, this will absorb all of, the paper will absorb your ink, is what I'm trying to say. So be careful out there, okay? Don't let them tell you to use thick paper or like rough paper. Hi. Because there's people out there that are trying to get you to waste your ink. All right, yeah. So that's it, that's the end of it. Thank you, Junior, for joining us. Tell me what I should make another video about. I actually don't know. Next one might be like the kind of paper I like, since I kind of went over that a lot. Again, this was my first video, so apologies if I sound nervous, said too much. But yeah, this was really fun, and have a good day.